Again, welcome back. Gary Stone, your great-great-granddaddy was...
William Clayton. And William Clayton was a convert to the Mormon church in Manchester, England. I mean, he was born near Preston, but joined the church when he was in England. And Heber C. Kimball, a Mormon leader, baptized him. They immigrated to the United States. And this is a point in Mormon history where the church, Mormonism had really be set up shop, if you will, their headquarters in Nauvoo, Illinois. And this was a really important time in church history because it's when like the Mormons really kind of began to flourish. Yeah. They were known more politically. Nauvoo is the largest city, I think, at the time in Illinois, bigger than Chicago. And so they were getting a lot of attention, but this is where everything went down, all the shit went down, if you will, in terms of polygamy, because there were many Mormons that had immigrated to Nauvoo that knew nothing about polygamy. And then there were many that had gone to Nauvoo because of polygamy, like my relative, William Clayton. You know, and I think that
So he went to Nauvoo because of polygamy,
well,
you think? You think? I mean, you're not certain of it. But
I'm not certain of it. I mean, he immigrated. Well, I shouldn't say that that's why he went to Nauvoo.
I'm sure there were multiple reasons.
Well, because when he came over from England, he first went to, I think, Iowa, and tried to farm, or Ohio, and it wasn't working. He was kind of failing at farming, and so Joseph Smith, according to William Clayton's diaries, like rescued him from that part of the country and said, "Hey, just come out to Nauvoo." And they became fast friends. People in Nauvoo referred to them as the Jonathan and David type relationship. And so William Clayton really just became like, I think really Joseph Smith's confidant. So not just was he scribing for Joseph Smith, but he could literally confide
darkest, deepest things. That leads me to ask you this, because just for everybody who's watching, we recorded, so we have 3 1.5-hour videos in 4K that will be coming out. And we also did a 30-minute one. One, we got his story. Gary's never spoken out yet publicly. And this is going to be the first time. And I really hope that everybody will stay tuned to check that out. But this makes me wonder, with all of our recordings, I don't want to overlap as much as we can with things we've already discussed. I really want to keep people on edge for when that material does come out, because your story is great. It really is, Gary. And you have some deep genealogical ties in with Mormonism and how it all started. My question is, do you think there are many things that he didn't write down that maybe Joseph Smith confided in him on, that he said, I'm not even going to put this in my diary? Because we have 3 diaries. Tease him on that one.
Oh, yeah. There's lots of information that William Clayton recorded. So in fact, there are some journals. If you look at the handwriting in some of Heber C. Kimball's journals, for example, it's in William Clayton's handwriting. Many of the revelations dictated by Joseph Smith is in William Clayton's handwriting. So he wrote what other people were saying. He dictated. Lots of financial records are in his handwriting. There are 3 diaries, though, that we know of that were primarily written around the time of Nauvoo. And this is really the time that where, Joseph Smith was really trying to form, the basis for polygamy, trying to convince Emma Smith, his wife, to be okay with polygamy. And so I do think that he wrote, and what we know, let me just say what we know about William Clayton is that he was a prolific documenter. So he documented everything that was happening in Nauvoo and was really good at it. He was on the Council of 50. We didn't talk about the Council of 50.
No, we didn't.
It's kind of a theocratic organization that Joseph Smith started, and William Clayton kept the minutes for all of those meetings. And
that was the stuff that was going to get him treason if he was found, right? This is the stuff that would have gotten him killed, or at least on
it
trial.
sounded treasonous. I mean, the Council of 50 was really intended to kind of like establish a kingdom of God on earth, specifically in the United States, right? So these three diaries, I do think, have lots of things that Joseph confided in him about. I really do. We don't have access to those three. There are small excerpts from the three that we have access to, and those kinds of excerpts describe things that are not really flattering necessarily to the church. They're things that are like that relate to Emma, for example, threatening that she'll start to take more than one husband,
which pieces together what we
talked about, right?
And that was an excerpt from one of those
three notebooks.
And they like, it almost makes me want to be conspiratorial.
I know it's hard not to be,
but being that your granddad, that's your great granddaddy, like that hits you a little differently, I would feel.
Well, I mean, in part, I think, and I don't know if my siblings are watching, but I think this is something that has hit all of us in some way or another, because we've had some access to these journals in the past, but these three notebooks, as a family, we have no access to them, right? But the church keeps them in a locked archive. Now, in fairness to the church, they have started something called the Joseph Smith Papers Project, and they have been basically revealing everything that they have in their church archives. They've been scanning original documents. You can literally see what William Clayton has written, what Joseph Smith wrote. And that's where we can get a lot of this information. In 2017, the church said that the rest of the diaries of William Clayton will be published in Joseph Smith Papers.
But it hasn't yet.
And it's 2023.
Wow.
And so it's hard not to be conspiratorial, because, I'm like, I mean, I did actually ask a church historian contact that I have, who said, well, it's coming. These diaries are going to be released through Joseph Smith Papers, but there have been too many other important things to release through Joseph Smith Papers. And I don't know what those more important things are. It's just interesting that, like, you said it in 2017 and there's nothing. And I can't help but think that there is something.
What do you think's in them?
Well, I think that
guessing, of course.
Yeah. So one of the things we do know is in them is William Clayton wanted to start practicing polygamy. He was relieved of the word that he used, that this doctrine was being taught, because of his lustful desire towards other women. I mean, this is what he's writing in his journals. And he marries his sister-in-law, Margaret Moon, and that she's my grandmother. Like, that's my line, maternal line. And in that conversation, or in that part of his journal, he very worriedly goes to Joseph Smith and says, I got Margaret pregnant. Now, why is it important, or why is it worrisome to him that he got her pregnant? Well, it's because in Nauvoo, anyone practicing polygamy were told to keep it secret. So if Margaret, who's not married to the public, not publicly married, gets pregnant, who got her pregnant? And did she commit adultery? And in his journal, he writes that Joseph Smith told him, we'll just excommunicate you. We'll put you through a public, trial in the church. You'll get excommunicated, and then I'll just rebaptize you right back into the church.
Right.
But that was more important than revealing polygamy. It was more important to go through that whole charade than to tell the truth that they were married, through the polygamy, through the church temple ceremony. And so I think, so what was important there? It was important to hide the marriage. It was important to hide the pregnancy. So this just kind of flies in the face of anyone who thinks that polygamy was about making more children, because they really wanted to hide that. And so I do think that some of those records will reveal that
much more polygamy language and hiding that.
And what else did they do to hide these marriages and pregnancies? Did they practice some sort of abortion? I do think that kind of information will be in those notebooks.